Let's round of applause for Anisa Sanusi, please.
Thank you. This is very good for my ego.
There we go, and you've not got an ego.
Oh, we know I do.
So yeah, I guess first of all, I'm not going to do it a disservice. I'm just going to ask you, for anybody that isn't aware of you personally and the work you do with Limit Break, do you want to just give the little origin story? That'd be great.
First of all, how dare you not know about me? Well, my name's Anisa Sanusi and I'm the founder of Limit Break Mentorship, and the Limit Break Mentorship itself has been going on for 6 years. This is our 6th year running, and we have reached a grand total of 1,600 mentors and mentees throughout all of the UK and parts of Ireland. I myself have been working in the games industry for 11 years now, and my background is in UI and UX design, and I still do UI UX design as my day job. And Limit Break is is a non-profit organization, and it is run by volunteers. Dan is one of our newest members in the director seat with me, so our job is to run the program to make sure that we can keep it going and help as many people as possible, and yeah.
Yes, and 6 years, 1,600 people this year. It's grown year on year. I'm not sure if you expected that to be what kind of this would achieve, but to me that kind of hints at there being some sort of demand for mentoring, advice, guidance in the games industry. I mean, obviously you created this program, but do you think that's still the case?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, just to give a bit of context, when Limit Break started in 2019, it was pretty small, but we still had a cohort of 100 people, and that was with a lot of limitations. At the time it was pre-COVID. I wanted people to meet in person, and I wanted to be local. I was living in London, so within London itself, we got 100 people, and then obviously COVID happened. We moved to online. That kind of restrictions kind of opened up bigger and bigger each year. So in the first year, it was a women and marginalized genders kind of thing, because I wanted to do something for someone like myself. In fact, I wanted Limit Break to exist because I wanted it to exist, as in I wish I had this when I was starting out. And as with a lot of things, sometimes if it doesn't exist, you guys are like, yeah, I'll just make it. And 6 years later, it's a big thing now where, that restriction is no longer just women or marginalized genders. Now it's, we're including disabled people, LGBTQ, POC, the range is getting bigger. And now more and more people are coming up and saying oh wow, this is great. I wouldn't have gotten the job, I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity, blah, 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 if it wasn't for Limit Break. I had one person in our team, actually, she's had 3 jobs now, and all 3 was through Limit Break connections. It's insane. And those kind of stories kind of keeps it going, I suppose. And
yeah, so that's really interesting, and this demand, and as you say, this kind of supporting underrepresented people. So we're only really focusing on a subset of the industry, and even this 1,600 people that have joined the program this year, we are sadly we have to reject people as well, which there's hundreds more. So why do you think that there is such a demand, both for underrepresented, and even if this was a generic mentoring scheme, I'm sure it would be extremely popular, as we know. But why is there this demand? Is there something missing from the wider industry or existing sort of job roles?
Yeah, so quickly back to the origin story, why did I want it to exist? I was working in a AAA company at the time. No, I wasn't. I was working in a smaller company, but it was still a pretty big one. And with my experience at the time was that the games industry, at least how it works in the UK, is that you're kind of siloed in your own company. So when I was working in Cambridge, I only knew other companies in Cambridge. When I was in London, there's way more studios there for sure, but then I only ever see the same people, people I work with day to day. And if you're a marginalized person, if you're the minority, even less of those people are someone that you could relate to, and I I just wanted to talk to more women in positions of power, which, as we know, that there's less than 2% of people working in these positions are women, much less POC or anything else like that. So because of that, Limit Break started, and then ever since it started, again, there's always someone coming on, knocking on my door and be like, what about me? like, am I not deserving of this opportunity as well? I want it too. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But also, like, you know, again, it's mostly a scale issue with us, you know, where in a sense that, like, we can only have so much time and effort to accommodate so many people. So this is kind of where we draw the line. But the strong need for it is kind of everywhere. So again, a lot of people go like, hi, is there a limit break for the US or in Asia or literally any, like, in Europe? And I'm like, again, no, like, you know, it's a side thing that we're doing, you know, it's run by volunteers. There's absolutely no way that we can, you know, accommodate everybody. But the need is there because, again, you're siloed, you're only talking to certain people. Even if you're talking online, like, a lot of communities right now are in private discords. Like, if you don't know about them, how are you supposed to connect to other people? So just that idea of being able to talk to people and finding advice, I think, is kind of like, I don't know if you had this problem where, like, how do I do X? And someone goes, just fucking Google it. And I'm like, that's not fucking helpful. I'm gonna say fuck a lot, I'm sorry. But it's like, okay, again, all right, so I have this issue where, like, I know I can Google it, but I don't even know how to articulate my specific issue. You know, it's kind of like if you do something in Unreal or in you know, Unity, where you're like, oh, I need this to do X, but I don't know what it's called. I can't even look for, like, the checkbox. You know, it might be just a checkbox thing, or it might be a thing that I need a script for. But how do I articulate that in a question that I can Google it? You know, so imagine that, but like every other part of your life, where you're just like, this guy's being a bit of a dick to me at work, but I don't know why, you know? And you're just like, how am I supposed to fucking Google that? That's kind of weird, right? So because of these things, you need, like, a one-to-one person, just somebody like, hey, I need to talk. This is a situation, help me, you know, figure it out. So with a mentor, somebody who's been there, done that kind of thing, they go like, I know what you're talking about. You want to talk about this and da-da-da-da-da. So in a way, that's kind of the core of it, where, like, you feel lost, you want answers, you don't fucking know who or where to go for. That's why a mentor helps.
And that's kind of why I hoodwinked you all into being here, and why I wanted to have this conversation, is because I think this issue is kind of ingrained in our industry. I'm sure nobody here has found it an easy ride and has always known what to do and who to consult. And as a room potentially full of indie developers, entrepreneurs, future business owners, perhaps this can be the start of just some thinking about what might it look like if this was better. And yeah, I thought the conversation here as an organisation that's been providing mentoring for the past 6 years, we might be able to plant some seeds and go, actually, yeah, okay, we don't just need to follow the path of the large corporate incumbents that have taken advantage of the fact this is such a passion-driven industry, and people will throw themselves on the fire because they love what they do. And maybe we can start to provide some organisations and some structures and some processes that can offer a bit of better support for people like yourselves and like the people that Limit Break supports. So with that in mind, from your experience and perspective of the 6 years of Limit Break, when mentoring is done well, what does that look like, do you think?
So with mentoring, Limit Break, we didn't invent mentoring, like obviously we didn't, but at the same time, the service that we provide is actually a platform. We provide a structure, because the idea of mentoring, well, like there's loads of people who are super experienced in the industry, they do want to mentor, but the first thing they always ask me is like, how do I do it? I don't know where to start, you know, like the energies that, the fires that, like, you know, some people have successes and they're like, I want to give back, you know, just like giving back, what avenue can you do that in? And, you know, we live in a capitalist society, so a lot of like giving back means giving money, and obviously, you know, nobody has fucking money. So the idea of Limit Break is that we give you the structure, and the structure is, you know, the way that we've evolved it is in a way that it is short term, meaning if you and your mentee don't work out or your mentor don't work out, you know, you can duck out, and there's absolutely no strings attached. So, you know, it's short term, but if you like that person, you can continue past that amount of time. And number two is that we put everyone together in one room, meaning these are the people who want mentoring and these are people who want to mentor, you know. So the supply and demand, you know, it's in one ecosystem. So the idea is that what was the question again? Was it like...
What does good mentoring look like? So
when
you see people that come out of the machine and What's the benefit?
So the good mentoring comes out when the structure is there. When like, okay, we know that they're in a safe space in a sense that like, again, if something doesn't work out with their mentor-mentee, that's where Limit Break comes in and be like, okay, cool, you don't work out, let's just, separate the two of you. We'll find you a new mentee, we'll find you a new mentor. If you want to leave, you can, again, it's just like pretty chill. So I think for mentees is kind of putting away that pressure of walking up to someone really well known or like super important in the industry and they're just shaking their boots like, I don't know, like you're so scared to just talk to people, much less like ask them for their time and like like help out with things. With mentors, it's kind of like a lot of them have imposter syndrome. Most of them are like, I don't know what I'm doing, like I'm and then it's a bit a tiny push of like encouraging them like, no, you do know what you're doing. So once you kind of eliminate all of these, I want to say, anxieties around mentorship or around the idea of being known, I want to say, is that, and then that's when they can, become comfortable with themselves. And within that comfort, that safety of mentees being able to open up about their issues without being judged, without being thought like, I think a lot of mentees think like, I'm having this issue, I bet they're going to think I'm fucking stupid, and that's not true. A lot of people are quite empathetic. Whereas with mentors, again, same issue, where they're like, my mentee's going to think I'm fucking stupid because I don't know how to help them. But the idea is that being comfortable, being safe, being able to be your true self with your mentor and mentees, that's when the best mentorship comes out.
Nice. And I've been a mentor for Limit Break for the past 5 years. A couple of my mentees are here even, which is great. I definitely concur that kind of that first engagement is often just about instilling confidence and what people will go on to achieve once you address that. And I'm sure everybody in this room has suffered some degree of imposter syndrome. To Anisa's point, if anybody in here would like to be a mentor, I really encourage you to do it. And your first thought is often going to be, I wouldn't have anything to help someone. I always say to people, if you met yourself 3 years ago, would you have some advice for you? The chances are you would, and that is basically what the mentees are. Providing that confidence, that comfort, really powerful. And that as Anisa said, we haven't invented mentoring at Limit Break. So again, within your organisations, whether you're a solo indie or you're a growing studio, start thinking about what is this going to look like for the people that work for you. It's not rocket science. Maybe you can start to implement some of these things. Got any thoughts on kind of, as a mentor, kind of what makes for a good mentor, or got any examples you can think of from people that have been through the scheme and their successes?
I think the best mentor-mentee relationship I've seen are the kinds where they actually just become friends. There's that, there's always that level of respect that you have for the other person, but it goes both ways, just because they're a mentee and they're starting out, you need to respect them as well, in the sense that like, I've been there, and when you were younger or new to the industry, you kind of want to be taken seriously, you want to be, and all that. So it's kind of, it goes both ways, in the sense that like, there's a level of respect and there's a level of friendship. But also, again, because it's a work thing, an industry thing, there's that, there's boundaries of where you respect them. So therefore, you don't want to treat them, if you're a mentee, you don't want to treat them like, I don't know, like a therapist, and you're just trauma dumping the whole time. And, like, I don't have a job. And for like the next 6 months, I still don't have a job. It's your fault. You didn't get me a job. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, shut up. Like, so in a way, like, we want to be empathetic to that kind of stuff, but also know your boundaries and be respectful of people's times. And I want to say, like, there's been so many times where, like, a couple of mentor mentees would be like, oh, we just had such a great time that we wanted to continue, talking even past the limit break time. So limit break time is like 6 months, and that's enough time for you to really get to know a person, and their trajectory in life. And it's kind of like, the good ones, they continue talking outside of limit break. In fact, some of them are returning mentors and they mentor somebody else, but they're still mentoring the person from the previous year. And after a few years, in fact, some of them just become friends, and they get invited to their weddings, or they get invited to events, and you kind of, mentorship becomes that thing where it's not a transaction Like that's one of the very first thing that we teach people in Limit Break, that we have mentor-mentee guides, is like, do not treat it like a transaction. It's not like you pay me £10 and I give you half an hour. Like that's a whole different thing. That's a consultancy. That is what you're paying for. But like with mentorship, it is literally because we want you to succeed, you know. And why would you want other people to succeed? Because success is not a zero-sum game. Just because somebody is, you know, successful doesn't mean it's going to be less successful for you. But yeah, it's kind of like when you're uplifting everybody, you're kind of uplifting yourself as well, you know. And it's a bit woo-hoo kind of thing, but like it's true. Like
100%. When you help someone, or when somebody asks you questions, you really can self-affirm. It's like, oh, I actually do know some things, and you know, I've certainly sat there thinking, God, I've meandered around and I've done this and that. What do I actually know? And then somebody asks you a question, like, oh yeah, I did this and I experienced that, and all of a sudden you can learn about your self-worth as well. And I think maybe both, again, in both directions, kind of a bit of vulnerability goes a long way. As a mentor, you don't need to feel the pressure of having to know all the answers and everything needs to be black and white and concrete and assured.
I'll tell you one story, right, from a mentor-mentee relationship. This was something that happened really early on in Limit Break. So she was a programming mentee, and she had a mentor, and he came up to me and was like, Anisa, my mentee has an issue. I think this is way out of my league. I don't know what to do. Would you mind talking to her? And I'm like, okay, cool. So we spoke to her, and she was actually at the time a university student. And as you know, in university, especially in programming, if you're a woman, you're most likely going to be like one woman out of like 3 from like 100 people in the course, and that was literally her case, right? So with her issue, she had a lecturer who was doing very inappropriate things with the students. You know, he was way too familiar with them, and all of the other male students were chill about it, and she was like, I don't like this, you know, I feel really weird. And all the other students were like, you know, like, no, you're just being too dramatic, or you're being too worried, you're too anxious, like, it's fine, like, what are you worried about? And then, you know, she came up to the mentor, and eventually me, she told us the situation, and I was like, no, that is not right, that is no, that's not supposed to happen. So in this case, right, like, as a mentor, like, you start to think like, okay, where does my power of influence lie here? Like, what can I do? Because this is a university, I don't teach there, you know, like, we don't know any of the staff members, like, how do we help this person? And sometimes, right, in this case, it's literally just give them the confidence to be able to speak up. So in her case, what I told her was like, look, I have no idea, you know, I don't know anybody at a university, I've never heard about university until you came to me. However, I do think this is something that you need to bring up to, you know, to the actual people in power. So in her case, like the dean. And I said like, okay, so what's the situation? And I like, is this a thing that they're investigating, or, you know, what can we do? Eventually, what I told her is like, look, I don't know what I can do, but if you need to talk to your dean and you want somebody in that room with you, let me know. I'll take a day off from work and I'll go to your university. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but like, I'll be there for you and supporting you just to be in that room. Eventually, she did have a meeting, that dean, but she kind of plucked up that courage to do that herself without me in the room. And long story short, you know, the issue's been resolved. Like, the lecturer in question, he resigned because he was being investigated. So he basically ran before anything could happen. But the point is, she was at the brink of quitting that course, right? And if you imagine that how few women are in the industry, and the fact that early in the pipeline, like, you know, you're not even in the industry yet, you're just literally still in education, and you're already burnt out by this kind of treatment. Like, imagine the amount of people who could have been in the talent pool, who could have been in the games industry, but they were kind of pushed out because of this. She graduated, and now she's like one of the best graphics programmers. She works for I'm not going to say what company because that will tell her who she is. However, according to a mentor who is a professional programmer in the industry, he went like, no, she's like so good at her job. Jenny, one of the better programmers I've ever met, and she's only in university. So imagine that much talent to be lost so early on because of this. And in this case, I'm not going to credit Limit Break for that. I'm going to credit the fact that she had somebody to talk to that built up her confidence to do the right thing and to stay on her path that she wanted to be at.
Yeah, I think there's loads of sort of useful insights from that story, and it touches on the diversity element of Limit Break, and obviously it's a big conversation in the industry, which undeniably it's a problem in our industry, in tech in general, and lots of other sectors. I think games is good because it's very self-aware of this, but hopefully, again, we can sort of start thinking about actually the lived experiences of each of us is different, and you as current or future leaders can start now thinking about, okay, yeah, maybe when you're one of 3 women on a 100-person course, 97% of people don't see a problem with this. That's coming from a very shared lived experience. So again, think about that in your structures, in the teams that you're building and the teams that you're supporting. And following on from that, do you think, or have you seen this kind of like diversity of lived experience and how that impacts the games that we make? And I know we get a lot of people through Limit Break who very much kind of fall into this category. Any thoughts or anecdotes on the actual content that gets produced as a result?
I mean, yeah, like similarly, I started Limit Break because it was a thing that I wanted to exist. If you're in video games, you want to make the games that you wish existed. You're making the games that you want to play, or at least, if you grew up playing, certain games, you want to make those games, but for yourself, for a new audience, for people like you, because you don't feel represented, or you don't feel like it was hitting a certain niche or a certain something, right? So in that way, like, it feels that, if we level the playing field a little bit more, like lower the barrier of entry, kind of help out as much as possible, like that's where you get really interesting ideas, because you have no fucking idea where the next big hit game is. Like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure there's games right now where you feel like, I don't know, Stardew Valley, on paper it sounds kind of boring or something, but because, Harvest Moon was such an influential thing, they wanted to make something that they wanted, and that became a huge hit. Now there's like Stardew Valley copies everywhere. So in a way, like, that could be the next Stardew Valley somewhere, but you just didn't know about it. There's that quote that I keep thinking about, which is like, someone's like, I wonder if we should study the brains of the smartest people, like what makes them different, And I think the other half of that quote is like, I'm less interested in the brains of successful people. I'm more interested in the fact that there's so many geniuses out there that never got the chance to do what they wanted, because of the opportunities that was never given to them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like we talk a lot about cultural fit, and if you're hiring and building a team, you want to get along and enjoy the company, the people you're working with. But don't dismiss cultural misfits, the people that don't have the same shape as everybody else, because that's where you're going to get different ideas, different approaches, and different stories to tell, and different products. I'm conscious of using all the time. If anybody's got any questions about mentoring, about inclusivity, about Limit Break, then feel free to raise your hand and we can go to that. Annie?
How do you join Limit Break?
Very good question. It's almost like you were planted.
How to join Limit Break. So we are open every April. I know it's May now, so that means we're closed. Sorry. You just go to limitbreak.co.uk or follow us on socials at LB Mentorship. However, I know for a fact that there's so many organizations out there that has been inspired by Limit Break to start their own mentorship programs, and I think that's a great thing because, again, we cannot come with everyone. So please look out online. There's stuff like, I don't know, there's other organizations around. There's Into Games, there's Code Coven, there's also Women in Games Asia has started their own mentorship program as well, and just look up mentorship.
I think it's an important takeaway from that is also why Limit Break started, because Anisa wanted that to exist, and maybe you have a geographic gathering or people within your organisation. Like, don't be afraid to start up. Mentoring doesn't have to be this massive formalised thing. You can always approach us and ask for advice if it's something you want to spin up.
Oh, you can also do individual mentorships as well. Like, you can just literally say, I am X person with X skills. If you are looking for somebody to help you out, let me know. that kind of thing. I've seen so many artists specifically, they offer mentorships on their Twitter accounts or whatever, and it's like a 3-month thing or a 6-month thing or whatever. Again, whatever you want to do.
And if you fancy mentoring, especially if you're an experienced artist, we may still be able to squeeze some mentors in.
Yeah, Limit Break still needs a lot of artist mentors. Like, too many people want to be artists. I feel like, can you do something more interesting?
And to be clear, mentors from all walks of life, because it would be great to have somebody that is completely relatable to every mentee, but the reason it exists is because that isn't possible. So yeah, mentors from all walks of life are very much welcomed.
So we have a gentleman there with his hand up.
Yeah, sorry if some of your mentors or mentees in certain situations, because obviously there's a very broad spectrum of different skills. Do you find that there are ever scenarios where one of your mentors is like, well, I have all this skill sets, but actually I'm missing a bit when it comes to like finance or marketing, and do they sort of dip in and get like skill share with some of the other mentors?
Yeah, so that's one of the good things about Limit Break. So the question asked is that if your mentor has X skills but is missing Y skills, and your mentee might need the Y skills, is there a way to find other people that could fill in those gaps? And that's exactly the kind of structure that Limit Break provides, which I think is really, really useful. Let's say if you want to do your own mentorship thing within your own company or in your own community, in your local area, having that network of like, cool, like I can do art, but I don't know programming or production. Can we connect to somebody? And that's literally what mentoring is you're also facilitating connections to other people. So with Limit Break, the way that we do this, again, we have a platform with like loads of people, and the idea is that you're attached to one person for the 6 months. However, there's always a thing called one-off mentoring. So you can only, because sometimes you only have like, again, the Google thing where like I have this very specific question to ask this specific person, but I don't need them for like, a year. I just need them for like an hour. So because of that, we have the pool of talent, the pool of people in one really very long list, and you literally just search, I don't know, marketing, whatever, and then you go, oh cool, this person has, again, video games is so broad, like you have AAA, you have indie, and you need to go to the right person. And because we have so many people in Limit Break, 1,600 people, that's where you kind of be able to shortcut yourself to find somebody, hey, cool, like, can I get a one-off time with you? And I think the thing with mentors, Limit Break mentors, is that they're so nice. They try to mentor so many people. Some of them take up to like 3 or 4 mentees, and I'm like, don't do that. That's too many people. 2 is the sweet spot. But they're also always open to be like, oh, but I want to help more people. How do I do that, right? Again, we just provide a platform for them to be able to message you and talk to you in a safe way, and in that way, yeah.
Excellent. One very quick last question.
Following this, if you've chosen one-on, you still can have a long-term mentor?
Yes, yeah, of course. Like, we want you to have a one person who is long-term, because mentorship is a long-term game. 6 months is the time frame that we give you. However, as you know, life is weird and different. Mentorships can last 10 years, or just for as long as you're on this specific journey, because halfway through you might change your goals and you might need someone new.
We'll be back in an hour and we'll have some more excellent content for you. Thank you. Round of applause for Anisa as well.
Thank you.